Jesse. This is the Clearly Crucial podcast. I'm an operations consultant, and I've been making my way around the internet connecting with awesome, like minded people who are also very keen on making the best of their experiences through the power of clarity. And today, I have the honor of introducing our guest, Adriana. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Now, for those of you who don't know, Adriana is big in the world of culture. She's working with her company Culture Redesigned. She's been doing that for the past 3 years. And if any of you have worked in an organization large enough for culture to matter, you know how important that is. Whether it's 15 people or 50 people, this is really the framework for what creates, I would say, sustainability in an environment that people want to work in, not just have to work in. Would you agree, Adriana?
Absolutely. I think that the days of working for a paycheck are way behind us, and
Or at
now
least
people
just
want
for a
to go
paycheck,
from
right?
just for a paycheck. Absolutely. Yes.
100%. Well, I won't introduce you too much. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell the people a little bit about, obviously a lot of these are your reviews as well, but why don't you give us a bit of a description of you, just in terms of what got you here and what's got you passionate about this area, so we can kind of see what's really important about this.
Yes, absolutely. My approach to culture is a little bit different, but I come at it from three different perspectives. Human resources, I spent 11 years as a HR, high-level corporate jobs, and I knew culture was important. It just wasn't a priority for the HR department because there were other things that were urgent. Like we knew it was important, but we couldn't get to it sometimes. Then the other perspective is Six Sigma. I'm a process improvement fanatic. I love data and matrix and things that can help us stay on track.
Same.
And the third one is behavioral science. I
Mm.
think once we understand how the brain operates, it's easier to create an optimized environment where every person can thrive without kind of like suppressing or diluting who they are.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's cool how you incorporate the three different sides of that together. I can imagine that would be pretty powerful. What was it for you personally that took you from the place of, working in HR for a number of years to really being passionate about servicing companies and organizations with all three of those different facets?
Well, as a head of HR, I always wanted culture to be priority for everyone. But unless the environment was conducive to talking about culture, I felt like at times culture was just maybe an aspiration or a concept, or we are a family oriented company, or we are,
Hmm.
like that
A
thing.
poster up on a wall rather than a
Yeah,
lifestyle, right?
exactly. So I really wanted to understand what will make that claim that was on the wall or the website, what will make it a reality. And as a head of HR, you have just so many different things to work and worry about and take care of that I decided I'm gonna be the resource for all those other people like me that want to enhance the culture but have a lot of other things that are pressing and that they have to pay attention to immediately. So I wanted
Yeah.
to be that partner.
Yeah.
That,
No, I think that what you mentioned about we knew it was important, but there were just other things that were a higher priority, right?
yes.
I think there's a lot to be said in that category, whether it's culture or refining systems, because it takes a lot to take a step back and say, hey, this is working, but we need to do better. It's very rare that you have someone who has the discipline to take that step backwards and really lay a better foundation. But I'm sure, as you know, until you do, there's always a limit, right? There's always a limit that they'll come up to until they realize, hey, maybe we do need to reinvest in this area, so to speak. And I'm curious, like, why was that something that was important for you to really kind of highlight for you personally?
Well, I think I was always slightly obsessed with process. Like if we like it's never a people problem, it's a process problem. And then after optimizing all the processes, but then people were leaving, is like, well, okay. So is your processes are super important, but you also have to have the environment to retain your players, right? And I think that's when it sort of everything clicked for me, that process and people it doesn't equal success if you don't have the right environment. You need the process, you need the people, but you also need to optimize the environment. And I
Yeah.
think that's when it all made sense to me, because initially I was relying only on processes, which, I mean, I still think they're 50% of the equation. But you do need, especially now, like the work environment has changed. A lot of people work remotely. That trust becomes even more important, because you need to be okay with not seeing what your employees are doing and just
Yeah.
trusting the results. So I think that's what made it all sort of connect for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think of it in terms of the trust element to it too, but perhaps that's one element to why it's so difficult for a lot of business owners to make that leap, because it just like when they're first delegating, culture is the next level of that. It's when they're dedicating the environment that their employees operate, not just the procedures. Because I agree, like I'm a big process guy as well. I have a science degree. I worked in the medical field, wrote all the SOPs and all that jazz. And I thought if you had the best processes in the world, then your business would be great. But there's a hierarchy there, right? Good
Right,
processes are important, but you need good people to execute them. Otherwise, it'll matter. And
right.
from what I'm learning from you, you need a good culture to support those people. Otherwise, so on and so forth down the chain, you get good or bad results either way. So I would love to know if you could elaborate with us a little bit on exactly how you do that with different companies, how you create and foster an environment that really supports the people that run the processes for the betterment of the organization.
So we usually start with buzzword core values, but we really
Of
look at
course.
them from a different perspective. So culture, it stands, like every letter stands for a different step. And the first one is clarity. And we always ask the business owners, what is your vision for the organization, but not in a very poetical way, because sometimes we get really romantic and aspirational, but in
Right.
terms of actually three dimensions: how we do the work, how we connect with the team, and how we interact with our customers in our communities. So we start with that clear vision of the workplace we want to create. And then we take the core values, and even though they start as an aspiration, we bring them all the way down to behaviors we want to see in the workplace. And to inspire behavior, that is a model that we use, is called the COM-B model. And it explains that to see a behavior in someone, you need to provide capability, opportunity, and motivation. So the capability will be in the process, right? For employees to know how to do something. The opportunity will be to give them that outfit where they can display the behavior, and the motivation will come from the environment and the reward they're going to get. So once we align those three, ideally, if we have the buy-in of the individuals, we can optimize the environment. And really, we describe an optimized environment when employees have trust, accountability, and psychological safety. I
Mhm.
think those three are key. And the interesting part about those three elements is that if you think about them, you can't fully have one without the other
About the
two
other.
present.
Mhm.
But when you are studying, it's very easy to identify from a process perspective which one is the one that needs the most work. So it's usually accountability problem or trust problem. So that's where we start. And from there, we take it to that employee journey and the client journey.
Yeah, because it's not just about hiring somebody to fulfill a role. It's about bringing someone into your world who has their own journey that they're a part of, as well as their journey with you and your journey with them. So I love that you're linking those two paths together, because honestly, having been a part of a number of different organizations, that's a bit one of the biggest missing pieces is when the employer isn't invested in the employee's journey, but expects them to give their all or their 110%. It's like, well, why would they? You haven't given
Right.
them a reason to.
I love that. And I think the concept of culture fit, it drives me crazy, because I know people mean something positive, but when I think of culture fit, I think of like stormtroopers. Like, we hire someone, now you
Yeah.
have to wear the same outfit, march the
Mhm.
same way. So I like to think of it as culture add, when we bring someone and we integrate them into the environment, but we allow them to be who they want to be. And I think that part of authenticity, like the way the brain works, when we're driven by ego, we're protecting ourselves, we're diluting who we are. But when we feel safe, we can create, we're open, we are authentic. So it's a lot, it doesn't lead to burnout and stress. It's just a more natural process.
Yeah. Well, and you're bringing up something that I've thought of as well, which is, culture is determined by the people who create it, right? And, if you have just one person, let's say the head of the organization, dictating what the culture is versus the culture being created by all of the members of the organization, the ad makes sense because every person that comes in has an impact on that,
Right.
whether it's positive or negative, intentionally or unintentionally. I mean, for me, I think that the best cultures are the ones that are more organically created rather than just dictated from on high. But I'm curious for your perspective as well.
I agree. And I always have the conversation when someone says, usually the first call, like people will tell me, well, we have a great culture, but and then I tend to say, well, culture is a fluid target, right? It's different every day. Like who came to work today?
Right.
Let's look at who's working, and then we understand what the culture is like today. So I do feel that understanding that is fluid and that is like change management, right? We're never done. We could just continue
Mhm.
enhancing it and making it better, but we're never done.
Yeah, no, I like that too. It's always a work in progress, and I would be remiss if I didn't highlight the fact that your culture acronym starts with clarity as well, because
Yes.
this is the reason that I started this podcast. If it was clear, is if anyone is curious, because I found the same thing that Adriana's found, which is at the core of most problem solving, whether it's culture, people, or process, you have to start with clarity, right? And I won't. I've gone on about why I feel like that's important, but I'd love to hear from your perspective, like what is it for you that makes clarity the first important step in culture for you guys?
Well, I think if we take that aspiration, but we haven't thought about it in ways of the work, I think clarity becomes non-existent. I can give you examples of, sometimes the culture elements or the values or the employee value proposition, they are written thinking of the way they sound, or
Mm,
what are people going to think when
sounds like a nice idea rather than, yeah.
sounds like a great culture, but then when you are really looking at them, I try to tell my clients, okay, let's think about this and see if this is really where you want to go. Because I'll give you an example: creativity as a core value. I have a couple of clients in robotics, and sometimes they don't want everyone coming up with ideas, but they're telling the world, okay, we want all your ideas. And then once everyone is bringing you your ideas, your new ideas, like I've had people telling me I can't even go get coffee because someone will get me and pitch me their new project. I don't
Mm,
want that. And then I said, well, your wall says you want that.
yeah.
That clarity piece was missing. So let's think about exactly how you want to reframe it, so your employees are invited to do what you want to see in them. So maybe creative problem solving is different than just creativity, right?
Yeah.
So we have to get really clear on what we want to see in employees, because they will listen to you. If you're telling them that's what you want, that's what you're going to get in the ideal world. So we have to make sure it's not only about the way it sounds, it's also what does it look like when we are doing the work every day, when we are dealing with a customer. What does it look like in terms of daily interactions with each other? And just confirming, is that the clear vision you want for the culture, or should we adjust
Mm,
it also?
yes, it's so important. You give a fantastic example too of, a lot of people may wonder, well, why is clarity so important? Like, can't we just start and figure it out as we go? And it's like, yeah, I mean, you always can, but what you figure out as you go is the clarity, right? So you might as well start there from the beginning, because the perfect example where creativity sounds like a great core value, and maybe in some cases it is. But as a baseline for how everyone operates and thrives in the environment, it may not actually serve the purpose that you're thinking about. And so doing the work to figure out, okay, well, what are the outcomes that we're looking for in this company? And what are the core values that support that, rather than just like integrity, creativity, like stuff like that. And that's the other problem, right? It's because a lot of those things aren't tangible. Like they're not really realistic. They're just, like you said, buzzwords. And I think that's where core values get a bit of a bad rap too. Like there was a phase of time where everyone and their mother started having core values, and at its core, I think that's a good thing, but only if you're using them as actual core values of how you operate. But if it's just like a few words on a list, and I'm guilty of not sticking to that as well, but at the same time, if it's just words on a piece of paper or poster up on the wall, then that's actually counterproductive. It's not
Right.
just not helpful, it's actually unhelpful, because then people don't know what to expect. They're coming to you with their ideas, and they're getting shut down, and they're like, well, I thought I was supposed to do this. And like that right there is the friction that starts the train of somebody leaving an organization, right? Because people don't leave businesses, they leave people. Would
Right.
you agree?
Absolutely. I think when we provide a process that lives up to the core values, there is alignment, right? That there was a clear vision, there is a process, and now the process is sort of the outlet we are giving employees to live up to those core values. If there is a misalignment, if we're saying we want something and the process is dictating something different, now the boss is confused, there is no accountability. Like why would you stay, right? Like
Right.
is there is a shortage of human talent, so it's easier for someone, I don't like this misalignment, even though that might not be the thought in their head. That is the response. Like I
Mhm.
just go try something else for another 6 months, and then I go try something else. So to really improve retention and employee engagement, I think that alignment between the process and the vision of the culture is really crucial.
Yes. And you mentioned a key thing right there, which I was about to ask you, like, what are some of the biggest impacts of really redesigning this culture at that level? You mentioned something about employee engagement. What are some of the other big impacts that you're seeing from those entrepreneurs who are taking the time to really step back and address this?
Well, I think culture is a great vehicle to amplify whatever you want to amplify, right? So if you're thinking right now, like a lot of clients reach out because of diversity, they want to commit to diversity, and maybe they have tried to, hire the one person of color or hire the one that looks different. And while that might be a good intention, if the culture is not optimized, if the environment is not optimized, you end up with
Mm,
a person that feels awkward and a group that also feels awkward, because it's like, oh, is this the diversity hire? Like, are we like supposed to not talk to that person?
right.
When we optimize the environment and we are able to show employees that we are integrating a new person into the environment, it's easier for the employees that were already there to connect authentically with a person that might not look or sound or think like them, because our biases, which is a whole other conversation, it doesn't mean we're good or bad people, right? We all have them. They're developed when we are babies because we felt safe with whoever was taking care of us. And that is there, like that writing is there, and is sending signals of a threat if we're approaching someone different. So understanding that, creating those new connections in a way that is authentic, that's really what improves your levels of readiness for diversity and inclusion. And you can really have a group of really different people feeling safe and secure to provide new ideas. In technology companies, and I work a lot in that industry, innovation is important, so diversity is really important for brainstorming. But when you have a diverse group of employees but they don't feel safe,
Mm,
creativity walks out the
they don't
door.
speak up. Yeah.
Right. So that psychological safety, trust, again, accountability, all those three factors are always present.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. So, yeah, creating this safe environment sounds like even more of correct me if I'm wrong. For me, what I'm hearing from you is it's less about finding the diversity pick, so to speak, when you're trying to broaden inclusion, and more about creating an environment that fosters everyone to be happier and more okay with themselves and the people around them, so that it opens the door for others who might have different ideas or be able to bring that level of innovation to the table. Because I could definitely pull from a few experiences where when the doors of leadership are open, a lot of people are much more forthcoming with the ideas that honestly leadership is asking for, but without asking for them. Or sometimes they are asking for them, but the environment is not in a way that is supportive of that, and so they get crickets when really there is so much there to explore. Like, have you ever noticed that in your experience?
Absolutely. I think you said something about safety,
Yeah,
and I think at times we think being nice creates psychological safety, but it goes way, way beyond that. I mean, we have to be nice to each other and respect and everything else, but
sure.
it's about creating that tolerance for differences, because you might have a group that might look similar, but once it's psychologically safe, people start finding differences and being comfortable with those differences, and that really opens just a new level of brainstorming and innovation and change management that wasn't
Yeah,
there before, because you're not presenting your work version of Jesse.
yeah, right.
You're bringing your entire self to work.
Mhm. And that's where the power comes in. When you've
Yes.
got a team of people doing that, not just an individual, that's really where, like you said, innovation can take place, where the ball can really be moved forward, not in a way that, oh, we've increased 4% this next quarter, but in a way that, hey, we've realized we can do something completely different that's going to make our 10-year goal that much closer, or make our environment so much better on our way there. And so I agree. I think that there's a lot of power there. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Adriana, for really taking us through your breakdown of what it means to really have culture, and the role that clarity has at the foundation of it all. Because that's what I keep saying. It's always the foundation. It's never the only thing you need, but it is the first thing you need. And so if anyone would like to reach out to you and learn more about what you do or who you connect with, how would they be able to reach out to you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think I spend most of my time there. So
Well, we're here already, so it's perfect.
yes. So LinkedIn, Adriana Vaccaro, and the name of my company is Culture Redesign. You can just reach out through LinkedIn. I'll be glad to follow up. And there is no high pressure anything. We can just connect and talk about culture. And if that's all we need, that's all we need.
Yeah, and you do events typically yourself, right? That's how we connected at first, was you were hosting an event. Was that right?
Yes. So I have one today at 12, which is
Uh
late to invite you
too
to
late, but
that.
that's okay. Next time.
Yes, my next one is November 8th. So I'll make sure to put it on LinkedIn once I get over this one that I have later on.
Awesome. Got it. Well, we'll make sure that this is up in time so that everyone can connect with you there as well. Or if they want to just reach out, that is an option as well. Same goes for me. You can always find me here on LinkedIn as well. There's a form on my page if you'd like to see what it would like to work together on the process side, because as we said, there's multiple pieces, right? It's not just one thing. It's process, people, and environment. And each of them has their own challenges and joys as well. And that's why it's important to have a team of people all working together to accomplish those goals. So that is all for today, everyone. You have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks for the next one. And until then, take care.